Hello. Right now I'm looking directly at you, and the thing that's really exciting about this is it means I have a teleprompter. Yay! Up to this point, when I make videos, I have to give some kind of disclaimer about how I'll be looking at my outline, or I'll be looking off screen at a script or something from time to time, or that I'll be going off the cuff completely because I haven't memorized a script. And this has been the bane of my existence. However, I decided to do something about it, and I went ahead and I built a teleprompter that allows me to look directly into the camera. And so what's funny is that recently on TikTok, I made a video where I was talking about how my dad's a builder and therefore I am when I need to be because it's in my DNA. And I didn't exactly say that my skills are automatic. I mentioned that I'm a quick study. So, I wasn't born building, but when I need to build, I catch on quickly. So when it's time to learn how to work with my hands, I can get the job done and I can learn quickly. I've even done a few videos where I've shown myself building with my dad and that kind of thing, working, fixing things. And this was something I kind of just said casually and I thought nothing of it. No big deal, no big whoop. Dad's a builder, so am I when I need to be. But for Gabby in my comment section, this was a lie. I was speaking untruths. So I want to expand on this subject and kind of take it into a more well thought out direction. I can't help it because my great grandfather, he was a preacher, and this is about to be a sermon. I guess you can say giving sermons and preaching is in my DNA. The other day I was looking into buying a teleprompter because I saw that one of my favorite YouTubers uses one to make his video essays, and I realized that if he was using one, I needed to use one. I knew that I didn't really have a choice because I liked how this particular YouTuber connected with his audience, and I liked the way that he never had to glance down or look off camera to check a script or an outline. I liked that his delivery was paced really well. It was really clean without a lot of cuts, and he didn't have a lot of ums and ands and uhs, and I always had a lot of ands and uhs and ums, and I knew that the only way to fix these issues that I was having with my videos was to get a teleprompter. I knew that it was time to level up, but the problem was I don't have the money to go out and buy new production equipment. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe here to my YouTube, or subscribe to my Patreon or Substack, or consider buying my book, The Dut Test. If you don't know what it's about, check it out, go to my website, do all the things. Making content is how I'm able to eat food and pay my rent, and I love being able to do this. So if you love that I'm doing this and you want to support, please push all of the buttons, please and thank you. Either way, right now things are a little tight, but I really wanted this teleprompter, and I knew it went deeper than just wanting a new toy. So I got on YouTube and I looked up teleprompters, and I happened across a DIY video for making the kind of teleprompter that I needed. This particular creator had made their homemade teleprompter out of a box and some glass. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought nothing of it. I did not want to build my own anything. I just wanted a fancy teleprompter. But I knew I would end up having to borrow money for that. And the last thing on this earth that I wanted to do was to borrow money from anyone. And I didn't want to do a fundraiser thing because that was another option as well. Either way, I was just like, no, I just want a teleprompter and I want it now. And so, ADHD mind, I got busy doing something else. And I remembered one small thing from that DIY video when I was looking in my closet, and that was that I needed to find a piece of glass and be able to get it to a 45-degree angle. So I found a piece of glass in my closet. I, had a bunch of other leftover materials from building various things and, whatever. And so I found, when I put the glass at a 45-degree angle, I was like, wait a minute, if I can rig this and if I can do that. And so, here I am building my own teleprompter. Now, there's something about working with my hands that gives me a spiritual feeling. It makes me feel really good in a way that's hard to describe. And I think it's like the feeling of creation, of alchemy, of restoration. And this is what I mean when I say it's in my DNA. I love arts and crafts. I love fixing things. I love that kind of stuff. The excitement that I feel making something is the same kind of excitement that I think my sister feels when she cooks. My sister is a chef, And as far back as I can remember, she has been cooking. It's always come naturally to her too. One time I was catering an event, and I asked my sister for advice because I am not the chef in the family, she is. And so I called her and she told me, I'm gonna give you the secret ingredient to all of my food, why all my food tastes good. And I was just so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to get the secret ingredient. All my food is about to be as delicious as my sister's. And she said that the secret ingredient was love, y'all. Love. Now, I mean, that's nice and everything, but like I didn't love the people I was catering for with that event. I must not have, because the yams did not turn out so great. But anyway, I was floored that she said this, because I guess I thought it was just a cliche thing to say, but it was beautiful. What a beautiful thing to know, is that I've been eating food with love all of this time. This person truly loves what they do, and they put it into their food, and that was the secret ingredient. And so I'm saying all of this to say that the things that come natural to you and that are special to you are gifts. And yes, they're going to need to be cultivated. This goes without saying. It's nature and nurture, not nature or nurture. And I understand that this is the internet, where everything is taken to one extreme or the other extreme. In fact, I already have a pre-recorded video where I explain, it's kind of a disclaimer video where I explain everything that I say anyway is not about extremes at all. So let's roll the clip. The internet can be a difficult place for nuanced discussion amongst the masses, because there is an insistence on assuming that everything said on camera is pushing the audience towards an extreme end of a binary. The assumption tends to be either or instead of also and. One of the best examples that demonstrates this thought process is a tweet from Bravo Cooley that so eloquently says, "Twitter, the only place where well-articulated sentences can still get misinterpreted. You can say, 'I like pancakes,' and somebody will say, 'So you hate waffles?' No, bitch. That's a whole new sentence. What the fuck is you talking about?" An expression of a sentiment in one direction does not necessarily mean that a person is advocating for or against the opposite extremity. Please take this into consideration when listening to nuanced discussions, because in all things, recognizing the need for balance and applying balance to how you take in information is a sign of a critical thinker and an intelligent mind. In other words, don't be adding extra sentences to what I'm saying to try to make me sound like I'm an extremist. Okay? Thank you. One of the things that I think is unfortunate about Western culture is the lack of acknowledgement of ancestral knowledge. I think the bias towards materialism has a lot to do with this. Materialism is the philosophical view that reality is entirely composed of matter, and that all things, including mental states and consciousness, are results of material interactions. It's the idea that if we can't scientifically test something, it doesn't exist. And this view is probably what led Gabby, who I'm assuming is a doctor, to her conclusion that all skills are based on nurture, which is not actually backed by science, but I'll get into that later, and that all skills must be cultivated in the material world to even exist at all. Now, personally, I agree that skills need to be cultivated. However, I also believe that there is a little bit of something that makes some people naturals at particular things and some people not so much. And just because Neil deGrasse Tyson can't measure something doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it doesn't count. Like, how do you explain to people who sit down and play the piano by sound without ever having formal training? There are some things that come more natural to us than others. It is undeniable that there is something in the very core of all of us that transcends space and time. Some muscle memory that was learned that can be activated if the stars align and all of the right elements come together. Yes, it takes practice. Yes, it takes cultivation. Yes, it takes nurturing. Absolutely. Of course. I'm not saying that you can get into an airplane and fly it without ever having seen an airplane before, or without ever having learned anything of the official language or protocols of flying. What I am saying is that some people take flight in more effortless ways because they are pilots. I'm saying that we all contain multitudes, pretty much. And as my favorite chef said, the secret ingredient is love. It takes love to cultivate certain skills. It takes love and care for things to truly sink in, for you to embrace new information and develop a level of respect for whatever it is that you decide to do. You have to give a damn. And you can't be nurtured into that. Either you do or you don't. Love is not going to make you perfect, but it's going to make you curious at least. And curiosity is way better than being perfect, because curiosity is where it all begins. Curiosity is how it keeps going. It's, hey Pop, what you doing? Oh, really? Well, how do you do that? Well, can I try? Curiosity stems from love, and while love needs to be cultured, it is also in us. Who's more curious than children? One might say love can't be proven or measured, so it doesn't exist, right? Did I get that right? Am I a materialist now? In watching this video, I hope you've asked yourself the following questions. What do I love to do? What skill sets seem to come natural to me as a child? What play action did your parents or teacher or whoever catch you doing one day as a child that led to some core skill that you still have today? What did you naturally love as a child? My love, Legos. All day, every day, my mom collected Legos for me and my twin sister, and we spent hours on hours on hours in our room building. And now we live in this house together that we work on. Of course, my father is the expert who helps out from time to time, and he knows what he's doing, but he has 2 quick studies, and our love for what we are learning means we're going to do our best. By building, we are reinforcing our belief in our natural ability and belief in ourselves. We can brag on our family's bloodline because we are actively cultivating it. This is nature and nurture working together in a balanced way. And sometimes believing in yourself, nature, is the best way to get motivated toward nurturing your natural abilities. Personally, I never thought making a little cardboard teleprompter would make me feel so resourceful and accomplished and productive, but it gave me a little boost this week that I really needed to feel like I can start making the kinds of videos that I need to make. Doing something in my nature nurtured my desire to do more things that show off my nature. It's a symbiotic relationship between both nature and nurture. Now, let's say that I'm wrong. Let's say that this is all just magical thinking, which I hate that term, and nothing I know has come natural to me. Let's say it's a coincidence that my great-grandfather was an awesome orator and I happen to be pretty decent with my words. Let's say that my belief in my father's skills and his father's skills and my mother and her ancestors' abilities, inspiring my belief that DNA can activate certain brainwaves and compel one to have adroit motor sensory skills. Let's say that all of those beliefs are just a placebo pill, and that there is no nature when it comes to skill. There's only nurture. There are no natural abilities. Nobody is born with it. It's all Maybelline, all of it. What difference does it make to science or to anyone if someone like me continues to believe in nature? What difference does it make? Why would anyone, especially someone as lovely and well-meaning as Gabby, feel the need to rain on my "it's in my DNA" parade? Personally, I have a little theory about this, and my theory pertains specifically to Black Americans, but anyone can take what they need from this message because it applies to us all. I think Black Americans are thought policed out of believing in ourselves and believing in our ancestors. I think we're taught to thought police each other as well. All right, so time for me to talk about one of my favorite subjects that everyone hates because it's so freaking sad and messed up, but we're going to talk about slavery a little bit. In 12 Years a Slave, there are several scenes where the lead character, Solomon Northup, pisses off his white masters by simply using his superior skills and abilities.
The distance from the work area to the point on the ladder bayou is several miles by water, fewer than land. It occurs to me that the expense of transportation would be materially diminished.
Materially diminished?
If we use the waterway.
Are you an engineer or an...
Now, in this movie, this man is a violinist, a skilled engineer, a construction worker, and a farmer. He has learned these skills and is forced to use them every day in service to his white masters. The entire movie is about him trying to escape, But the one thing that's inescapable is that Solomon is brilliant. Yes, he is an enslaved person, but he is also a skilled engineer. He works alongside other skilled laborers. And if an enslaved person, like say Solomon Northup, has a child who has a child who has a child who has a child, and that child leaves himself to have what it takes to become an engineer because their great-great-grandfather was an engineer, it would make sense for someone who doesn't want an enslaved person's great-grandchild to feel that they are inherently capable to tell them, well, that skill is not natural to you. And your great-grandfather or your great-great-grandmother wasn't an engineer. They weren't a farmer. They weren't a pianist. They were a slave.
Are you an engineer or a...
Those skills aren't in your DNA. The video that I did where I talked about my natural abilities that I'd gotten from my father and my mother's side of the family is one where I implore Black people to consider the gifts we may have received from our ancestors when tapping into skills to use for ourselves and our communities. I'm really just saying, hey, remember, you have ancestral knowledge too. That's your inheritance. You are skilled. You can do it. That's pretty much like the gist of what that video was about. The people in our bloodlines who came before us have some really great skills, and they didn't even have the same level and amount of access that we have to be able to cultivate those skills, and they still managed to become experts anyway. Maybe knowing this and believing in these people as a source of my power is frowned upon for me to do and preach about as a Black person, because it's safer for me to believe that I descend from nothingness and can only believe in my natural abilities under the conditions that they are cultivated and approved by white institutions. Scratch that. Maybe it's safer for white institutions to believe this is the case. Now, the interesting thing about Gabby is that she is the daughter of 2 doctors. Her transgenerational inheritance is medicine. And the very interesting and ironic thing about the medical field is that the biggest determining factor for whether someone is going to be a doctor or not is if they have a parent or parents who are doctors. Now, back in the day, medical schools were closed to Black people in the South and to a lesser degree in the North. Because of this, the first Black American physicians had to receive their medical degrees abroad. A few older medical schools in the East and some in the Midwest admitted some Black medical students, but not much at all. It was just like literally a handful. After slavery, there were 7 Black medical schools in the United States, but after a report called the Flexner Report came out calling for higher requirements for medical schools, Black medical schools were not able to compete with their white counterparts who had better resources, and they had to close down. So the already small amount of Black medical schools, 7, dropped down to just 2. And from 1890 to the end of World War I, there were only 2 medical schools holding it down for Black students in the United States. Howard University Medical School and Meharry Medical College, where almost 2,400 physicians graduated. This impacted and still impacts the number of Black doctors we have today, because there is something to be said about being directly descended from a person who practiced a specific skill. Yes, this is due to exposure and mentorship. Yes, this is due to having access to opportunity and resources. Yes, it's due to nurture, but nature is a huge part of this as well. And studies have been done on this. This is something that is backed by science. Inherited traits like cognitive ability, personality, and interest influence career paths. Adoption studies reveal that biological children are more likely to inherit career traits from their biological parents than from their adoptive parents, further reinforcing the genetic link. This is not to say that the child didn't have to cultivate whatever it is they pursued, but this is to say that their decision to gravitate towards these particular career paths in the first place speaks to some kind of biological predisposition. But this is not information that Black people are encouraged to think about, because as long as Black people see their ancestors and progenitors as no more than lowly slaves without an emphasis on the actual skilled trades that these enslaved people were performing, they will not see their ancestors as farmers. as doctors, as engineers, as herbalists, as midwives, as construction experts, as musicians, as orators, as philosophers, as scientists who were kidnapped. So when I tell you that it's in my DNA, I don't mean that I'm so arrogant as to think my skills don't necessitate training or cultivation, or that I would do things without going through the available and appropriate systems and institutions. This is to say, however, that I'm genetically predisposed to pursuing and thriving in certain paths because that is my transgenerational inheritance. That is my biological predisposition. Just like trauma can be passed down, gifts can be passed down too. But as long as we see the gifts that we have received as shameful or not important, we will seek validation and permission from institutions that only serve to exploit our labor while outsourcing our sense of self-worth and our ability to do said labor. Everything will be nurture. Nothing will be nature. And we will not first look within ourselves for that dash of love, that secret ingredient, that natural ability that sparks our curiosity and sets us off on a path that doesn't feel forced because it has already been paved for us by our ancestors. I have a sneaking suspicion that it's dangerous for Black people to see ourselves as anything more than blank slates. Because if we think to ourselves, my ancestors did it, or my mom did that, or, my grandfather, he used to do that, and so can I. We've already overcome the first barrier that white supremacy has put in front of us before we ever even get to their institutions. And that first barrier is our ability to believe in ourselves. So anyway, I made this little teleprompter a couple days ago because I come from a generations of builders, and if they can do it, so can I. So can I. I hope that this video was helpful to whoever needed to hear it. Gabby, I hope that you get a chance to see this full video, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about something that I love to talk about, which is my family and myself. If you want to keep seeing my videos, please consider subscribing to my Substack or Patreon, or buy my book, The Dud Test, or buy my art, as that is how I pay my bills. And if you want to help me with the building portion of my life, you can donate to my GoFundMe, where I am raising money to help myself and my sister renovate this old ass house. I think that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.